well with that, so this will be available for viewing later, as long as it works. Okay. So I've actually pulled this quote out of the Building Collaborative Teams webinar. As I said, this is a combination of the two, so I've kind of sprinkled some of the why is it important to build those collaborative teams. And I really like this quote, and I thought it was fitting for this presentation also. And it's coming together as a beginning, staying together is progress, and working together is success. And it seems to really fit with this topic of working with all different kinds of diverse personality types and really making that building that successful team. We also have pulled some of this presentation, as I said, from the book Dealing with Difficult People by Rick Brinkman and Rick Kirschner, and also have looked at the article 8 Ways to Build Collaborative Teams, which we found in the Harvard Business Review by Grattan and Erickson. So this, we've got a couple resources, and all of our references are also listed in the back. And again, some of these pictures were actually sent in when we did pull together this team presentation, and we asked for pictures of teams in 2011. So you may recognize some of your colleagues or maybe yourself in a couple of these pictures. So our purpose today with this webinar is to understand the importance of teams with diverse personalities, become familiar with categorizing those difficult personality types as an effective approach to understanding and communicating with a diverse group of volunteers, employees, or any other colleagues. We also want to identify key characteristics of each difficult personality type category, and then identify keys to success in getting the best out of every volunteer or employee, especially if some of those may come to you with difficult personality types, and the best out of teams in general. So I try to pull a few different points that we could touch on, and again, we look forward to hearing from you a little later in the presentation. So why would we build successful teams? I apologize if you've seen this before. I've used it a couple different times, and this is I think just important to keep in mind that teams are changing. There's increasing movement from the I culture towards the we culture due to changing work realities, the reduction of middle management, and global competition. And this is in the big real world, and also here in Extension we've got some changes with teams. More people are working in teams. Teams leverage organizational strengths to offset new challenges. So we really need to band together and play off each other's strengths. New teams have management staff at all levels being required to work together with more interdependence and with shared accountabilities outside their typical function. So as I said, we're working more and more together with higher levels of trust and participation. So we really need to make sure that we're being collaborative, being successful as a team. And teams today in cooperative extension and beyond are obviously changing. Teams are getting larger at times, tend to meet from a distance, so we're doing a lot of work virtually. We use WebEx, we use conference calls. Teams are also getting more diverse as the population gets more diverse, and as we really stress the importance of that diversity in the team. And the Harvard Business Review was also mentioning that teams are often more highly educated and specialized. So lots of different changes going on. It's really important that we have successful teams. So whether they're on the inside of cooperative extension or outside cooperative extension, it could be staff teams, it could be volunteer teams, teams of young people, could be your volunteer teams, could be community coalitions. So we've got a lot of ways of thinking of teams today, and despite the team makeup, what we want to do is work together and get things accomplished. So that's one of the purposes of this presentation today. And 4 of these qualities that came out of this presentation on building collaborative teams are looking at the really important qualities for teams, and I've got them listed there, and I'd like to invite you to join into the chat. I think we've got it set up. You can do that. Otherwise, I may have to push a button. But if you look at the 4 crucial team qualities here and tell me how these may challenge the effectiveness of a team. So I'm going to get you thinking right away, and I'll invite you to jump into the chat, send your comments to all participants if you can. I just want to double check that. We've got you privileged to do that. Chat with. All right, let's double check. So looking at these 4 qualities, large and complex, teams are more virtual, connect at a distance. What are some diverse views and backgrounds, highly educated, increasingly specialized team members? Any of these, how might they challenge the effectiveness of a team? And I'll invite you to add that right into the chat. And I think what I'm going to do now is make sure that you can hear me. Can everyone hear, and are you able to chat? You may just say yes or no, just to double check. Okay, great. Wanted to be sure we are all still connected. So I can, great, thank you very much, I appreciate that. So some of these crucial team qualities do come with challenges, and I'll just talk a little bit about that. Looking at these challenges, the large, more complex teams are sometimes due to technological abilities, sometimes it's just because we can stretch out over a state or over an area, we certainly can have these bigger teams. Great need for stakeholder input also, so this is a way to connect with our stakeholders, with our program participants to get some comments. Need to harness multiple skills. Challenge of a large team and distant team could be, and actually of teams that are connecting at a distance, really would be that there may not be the same buy-in as someone you're working with every day. So people tend to be a little less committed at times with these teams without building those relationships. So if you see a person every day and they've got some commitments to the team, you can check in with each other, really have an investment there, and as teams get larger and farther away, a little more complex, then there's more challenges with connecting. So I think that's just the general area on challenges with these crucial team qualities. Diversity, also challenging tasks, successful representation really require people with different views and backgrounds to create cross-fertilization that sparks insight and innovation. And difference such as sometimes nationality, sometimes differences in age, differences in educational levels, and sometimes in tenure might even hurt collaboration or the ease of collaboration between people. So this is also something we want to think about as some of those challenges that are coming. We really need to work hard to make sure the communication is built and relationships are built. And then also that more specialized teams with highly educated teams, again, it's found that there is some challenges with collaboration as people are specialized and maybe focused on their own research and bringing things to a team. Not always necessarily as open as people could be when they're working together. So there have been some challenges seen there. So we've got these challenges. It's hard to build trust if you don't see someone on a regular basis, if they're not down the hall from you. But I think with Cooperative Extension, we've done a pretty good job working across the state together. Many successful teams. But just wanted to bring up those 4 points. And then as we look at the 5 stages of group formation, really like this picture here, we have this is actually from Jim Kane, the 5 stages of group formation, and I've put his article reference in the back of the references, and it is exploring the 5 stages of group formation using adventure-based and active learning techniques. So if you haven't seen this article, take a look at it because it talks about the stages of group formation, but it also looks at it on an adventure-based kind of experiential active learning examples as the team goes through different sessions. He suggests different activities that could be built into helping the group to form. What activities might you fit in as that team is storming? And forming, as you probably can guess, is that get acquainted stage. If you haven't seen this before, members learn who is who, where they fit in, safe atmosphere is established, and the leader tends to take a more of a leadership role in that forming stage, a little more direction to the team. And the storming is when the conflict and controversy is introduced. This is also when team members learn more or consider more resources and requirements. There may be a little bit of tension that is building. Some people become very silent. Some people become dominating. The leader tends to coach the group through here, but this will be where everybody really builds on how they work together well. And then the norming is after the bugs are worked out, after the great relationship building is happening, and we're thinking about needs of the whole team and addressing questions and insecurities. Then the bugs worked out, good things start happening, cohesion, sharing, trust building is in that norming stage. Here's where creativity comes out, the skill acquisitions start to surface, and the leader plays that supportive role. And then in the performing piece, we provide a feeling of unity, a group identity, interdependence, and independence. This is a very productive stage, so you're even past the norming, feeling all together, working well together, and I know you've all been part of teams like that. And then the team actually has the skills and the resources to complete the task when they're in their best performing stage. And then Jim actually added on the Jim Kane added on the transforming piece where that group regroups. Participants are thanked, tasks are completed, people move on, leader provides the recognition and the conclusion. So not all groups, not all groups are long-term. Some are short-term, and it's important to make that recognition and have that transforming stage also with a group. And occasionally, groups cycle through the different stages or fall back as new members are added into the group or new tasks are built into the group. There may be some back and forth. It's not always a perfect cycle there. So now that we have the understanding of the stages, we're going to look at the next slide. And consider really what works well with others and why is it important for us to understand the diverse and difficult personalities. So part of that forming, storming, and probably even the norming phase is a learning to work well together. So I'm going to, again, ask a question and see if you're able to respond back in the chat. What stage do you think the diverse personalities will come up? As we start talking about difficult personalities, different personalities, what stage, from my description on the last slide, do you think the diverse personalities will come out? What stage might that be? Any guesses out there? Click back on the stages. So they're forming and storming and norming, and where might the difficult personalities surface? Good, I'm getting very good. All right, just a quick participation activity, and I think definitely in a little bit in that forming stage, especially somebody with very strong difficult personality may come out at that point, but I really feel like the storming, where the conflict and controversy are introduced, the teams are starting to consider resources and requirements. People with that passion and motivation are jumping in. Even in the definition of storming is that some are silent, some are more dominating in the storming piece, and I feel like this is probably where we'd see most of the diverse personalities showing up in that storming phase. So one of our purposes today is to become familiar with categorizing the diverse personalities and identifying strategies for handling the difficult personality types. So why do we need to do that? And basically, we need to start by understanding so we can minimize the tough situations. We can help overcome the challenging issues. We can move from that storming to the norming and especially the performing phase and enhance program and team success. We can also use our brains more than emotions to draw out our strengths as long as we're prepared on how we might address the different diverse personalities that are coming out to us. So, and just a caution here, a word about diversity. We've talked about diversity quite a bit with our webinars, and Eduardo Gonzalez is on. Good morning, Eduardo. And when we first put this presentation together, Eduardo suggested that we just make sure that we're clear that diversity in a group really does bring strengths with multiple perspectives and skills, and that's why we're looking for diversity in our group. But this presentation on understanding diverse personalities really is not to be confused with cultural awareness, two different things. This is a focus on, and the premise comes from the book with dealing with difficult personalities. So we've called it diverse because they tend to be sometimes a little different than what you and I may come out, or it may be our personalities. But just as we're talking about diversity, this is not to be confused with cultural awareness when we're talking about diverse personalities. And really effective communication is critical and takes time with any diversity, but also with these diverse personalities that we're going to talk about today. And another caution is we've got a yield sign here, and when we talk about stereotyping, another caution, proceed with caution with stereotyping, is we think about people coming in with diverse personalities, and what we really need to do is look at, are we sure that we're really thinking and focusing on the person's behaviors in multiple situations before we actually categorize somebody's personality. So first step should really focus on observing, noticing the person's behavior in many different situations and what behavioral patterns might emerge. And then you might further notice if the behavior is a regular occurrence for this individual, or if maybe some other stress may be causing this adverse behavior or difficult behavior. And then turn that reflection on yourself. Have you been maybe overstressed? Maybe you've got feeling about this person that just maybe they rub you the wrong way. I actually had a volunteer when I worked in Cayuga County who was just a lovely person, a great leader, really involved her 4-H club members to the full extent. They all came to the county fair, which was in the beginning of July and usually 90 degrees or more. And she was disappointed in an outcome that happened at the horse show, which happened to be across the fairgrounds from our building, our actual 4-H building. And for some reason I wasn't at the horse show at that point, and she got upset and thought she needed to find me, and she actually drove her car through the fairgrounds, which she wasn't supposed to do, and came to find me to complain about what had gone on. And this was not the way this volunteer ever acted. It was very unusual. And at this point, I'd wonder, would we call one of our difficult personalities is the bulldozer, and would we call this volunteer a bulldozer at that point? And because this isn't her regular behavior, her regular personality, I would say she may have been acting like that, but that would be a case where we'd say this is not a regular occurrence. This is not how we would categorize or tend to work with this volunteer. We might watch out for some of her unpredictability, but that we wouldn't actually categorize her as this was a one-time incident. So that made me think of that when we were thinking about stereotyping people or even saying this person is difficult this way, but really make sure that we're looking at behaviors and also getting to the root of what might be some type of outburst or some type of action that just feels like it's not really acceptable in your program. Sometimes this difficult behavior or bad behavior might just be a matter of misunderstanding or elevated feelings. So what we suggest is make sure that expectations are clear, and we do that right from the beginning with if we're talking about volunteers or staff with our position descriptions, but also as a team. You want to do that as a leader in that forming stage. Make sure your expectations are clear, and really try to understand with this person who's having difficult behaviors on the team why maybe they're acting like a bulldozer or going behind people's back. So we want to think about, are the expectations clear? Might the team member be frustrated by something that's going on with the team or a situation they're in? If it's a volunteer or staff member, are they burned out? Is it just time for them to try another position? Try maybe leave the team for a while if there actually is an issue with burnout. Definitely check as an individual or a team leader. You're going to want to check your emotions also. And are you sensitive to the way, as I said, one team member comes across because of something that's happened in the past? And you really have to think about that. And we've actually talked about that it's basically getting out of the box about someone. So if you've categorized a person and tend to deal with them maybe not in the most friendly, open way that you may with other team members, you need to be careful and check that and be sure that you have those conversations with people and understand their perspective and really get to the root of what might be causing. Are they not feeling good about the team's progress, or maybe not trusting you for one reason or another, and be sure that you're addressing that. So we've put on open the lines of communication. Make sure you have a private conversation with this person if there's some personality that's coming out that's really hurting the team or hurting the progress of a project, and also and work with that person. Have that adult conversation to really solve that problem together, or at least give it a try and make sure there's not something else going on behind. So when we talk about we do want to kind of categorize in general how to look at these diverse personalities, but we do want to also make sure that we're thinking about individuals and if all their needs are being met, and we're providing some guidance to these individuals so they're not slowing down team progress or your own project progress. So just a note there about stereotyping. Any questions on that? We're going to now look at the diverse personality types. I'll give you a moment just to put something in the chat if you have a question or comment about that. Okay. So you see a list here of the difficult personality types that actually came from the Dealing with Difficult Personalities, and I think they're kind of fun categories, and they probably do a pretty good job of explaining what they are based on their titles. So we have in similar webinars gone through and helped to define these. I'm going to actually just go on to the definitions, but we will ask you to maybe think about, as you look at this list, start thinking about a team member or a volunteer or a staff member from the past that you could share a little something about, that when you think of the tank, who is this person? And we'll ask, I'll actually invite you in the chat as we go into the definitions a little further to share a little bit about that. So as we click on, we'll look at the first three, and they would be the tank and the sniper and the grenade, and I'll let you take a look and read through those, and let me know. And maybe it's a family member, brother, sister. If you want to share in the chat, you don't use a real name, but an example might be, I had a boss. This isn't true, it's just made up. His name was Joe. He really seemed to work well with colleagues, and but occasionally Joe would talk about other people to me after being in, working, seeming to have great relationships with other people. And to me, that would be more of a sniper, kind of a person who's working working behind the scenes, not always going and addressing people if they had a concern about them, and talking about weaknesses of other people, maybe trying to sabotage different people on the team. So that would be the chat that I might put in there, that Joe was a sniper because he did this. So are there any examples out there when you think about these 3 particular difficult personality types that you can turn into a real life situation in a brief chat to us? Maybe as we get into the other difficult personalities, you'll have some examples. But basically, you see the tank as the pushy and ruthless, the loud and forceful, possibly quiet, intense, and precise, thinking about a tank coming down the road. And if in the way, you may be eliminated. So not a real positive description of a person, but this is a type that may come out in a variety of things. We've got the sniper and the grenade also. And Eduardo sharing that he's on a board with a tank who always uses her background as a lawyer to push her agenda. And boy, just say lawyer, and you've got definitely know you have a force to be reckoned with there. And that's unfortunate because it's not always doesn't always invite a comfortable, trusting team atmosphere there. That's a great example, Eduardo. And then we've got the sniper, who might be a little more the resentful, the covert, hidden operator, likes to get even and identify weaknesses by going behind your back, basically, and sabotaging and gossiping. And then the grenade is that more explosive, unpredictable, and just definitely kind of leader or team member that just is really hard for many people to take because of that unpredictability. Let's see what we have in the next 2 categories, if you have any. Oh, I've got another example coming up. Okay, Charmaine. Had a boss once that was very pushy, loud, and ruthless, who eventually had my position eliminated. She used her position and relationship with the CEO to get what she wanted. Wow, that's really a tough, loud, ruthless tank situation that really is a situation when that person is your supervisor, a real tough situation to be in, and definitely even as a team member would be another very difficult. So we want to have ways that we can work with these people, which is why we're looking forward to that. Thank you for sharing that. So as I turn into the next, the know-it-all or the think they know-it-all, there is a difference between the 2. So the know-it-all often knows everything and does know a lot. Unfortunately, they're always telling all they know and not always listening to ideas, or may consider other ideas inferior to them. And the difference with the think they know it all really is the person who doesn't know much but definitely talks about what they think they know. And they can influence a group, coming off very confidently, but not with the correct facts, and they can mislead and throw off the project. And again, we're going to look at how to address some of these situations as we go a little further into the presentation. Looking at the super agreeable, and again, if you've got some examples, that's great. It helps in all of our learning. I think this super agreeable is very pervasive in Cornell Cooperative Extension. People come to work on a committee, maybe an advisory committee, even a board. Maybe it's team members really enjoy working together, or like the people in the region, and they're quick to agree to responsibilities. But the reason this is a difficult personality type is they're sometimes slow to deliver. They also might break promises, pleases no one, yet overcommits to please people. So that's the super agreeable. Thinking about the indecisiveness, take a look at that, and puts off crucial decisions until too late, waits for decisions to be made, and blames decision makers. So they tend to hesitate to make decisions, but because they don't want to be part of owning up to if there's any kind of problem that comes along with it. So you can see these would be challenging, and if you've got some examples, feel free to put those right into the chat box. And we'll look at the next group, the unresponsive, the pessimist, and the whiner. Very fun, difficult personality types. And again, take a look at that and see if you've got any. We're going to actually refer to that. We'll break up into teams and actually look at how we might respond to the unresponsive, the no feedback, the pessimist, who tends to be doleful and discouraging, and the whiner, who tends to wallow in their woe and to whine incessantly and also maybe drag others down. No more examples? Okay. We're going to talk about there is hope, and there are learnable strategies for dealing with most situations. So doing nothing is not a sustainable strategy, and it is even dangerous and frustrating. With difficult people tends to build up and to get worse. So when we think about these personalities, they don't always fix themselves, and a lot of times we like to sit back and see what is going to happen. But some of the keys to success that were shared in the Dealing with Difficult People is to know that there are learnable strategies for most situations, and making sure that we are addressing these difficult personalities. So you can decide what kind of response is appropriate by reflecting on both the personality types and on the situation. And then other things you can do is to reduce those differences. So success in communication depends on finding common ground and then trying to redirect the interaction toward a new income. So let's see what we do agree on. Let's reduce the differences, and let's make sure that we know that we're all shooting for the same goal. Number 6 is recognizing the part you play, and understanding behaviors in yourself will help you in your success with other people. So if you know how certain personalities trigger your reactions, then you can certainly learn to see people differently, listen to a person differently, and feel differently about a situation. Make sure I've got another, sorry about that, Virginia. So we've got another example of a boss who would constantly just appear at my desk with no warning, want me to come to their office to discuss and learn some new procedure. I would not be able to prepare mentally. My priorities were constantly being interrupted. And that's definitely a challenging boss to have, and some of that is that inconsistency also. But a good example of a leader who really isn't somebody that can be predictable, might be a little explosive and demanding, and really does not help the team or team members or people, individuals, help their priorities and help them prepare to be effective in a team. So that's another good example of some challenging things we're going through. So we can reduce the differences and talk about things. We can recognize the part. We can be aware that attitude comes before behavior change. So your own attitude comes before behavior change, but also helping others with their attitude. And if this boss was comfortable with this is the way we need to work together and this works the best for you, helping to see that person address understand that this isn't an easy thing for you to switch gears so quickly and learn something new when you're asked to come down the hall right away. Also know that, these are some of the keys, but also knowing that not all situations are resolvable. Sometimes it is a supervisor or a boss and it's hard to work through that. Sometimes it's a volunteer who just isn't going to listen, or an employee, and there are supports for that also. So I've put some, when you do find that a situation is getting worse, everything you say or do makes the matter worse, you try your keys to success, you try your toolbox of responses for these difficult personalities, you can find yourself losing control. Remember, you can decide it no longer makes sense to continue to deal with that person, whether it's a supervisor or part of your team or one of your volunteers or one of your employees. And we do have some supports built in. And I just put into this slide and this in the handout that for tough situation with employees or colleagues, you can definitely contact Melissa Reef, our human resource generalist, and her email is there. She can help you through situations. It doesn't have to be dire, but if you need some help with that, definitely contact Melissa, and she can guide you through that process. For a tough situation with difficult volunteers, we do have the volunteer involvement policy, which is on the staff site. Also has particular pieces in there, links on the policy page, some of these procedures on managing volunteer conflicts and complaints, and also releasing an ineffective or detrimental volunteer. But when you get to that point of really that releasing or really feeling like things are going downhill and deteriorating, it's always good to, you can contact me, you can talk to your state extension specialist. Sarah Dayton is another great person to talk to, especially as we're thinking about more compliance, and let's make sure we do this appropriately. So there's a lot of help here in Extension Administration if you've got some of those challenging volunteers. Let's see, got another comment here. And SBN HR leads should be the first go-to for employee relations unless it's an emergency need. So there's definitely another contact. I've got Melissa there, but you're right. I appreciate that comment. You do have in your region the shared business network leads, and anything to do with employee relations can be run through. They're very well connected here to campus and are highly skilled professionals out there, so that's a great comment, is to go to your lead. And I think many of them are actually here on the line. Great. Any other comments? Do feel free to add those in. I'm trying to watch them. And definitely the HR leads will connect with Melissa as needed. So thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate that. So I also have a couple slides on just 10 simple steps to diffuse this situation. And they are to manage the situation face-to-face, not with email, fax, memo, voicemail, notes, or answering machine. You want to demonstrate that you understand. And again, this is dealing with that difficult personality. Demonstrate you understand, but use the I understand with care. So careful you're not overusing that. Help to diffuse the current situation by showing you have insight into the anger and that the person is upset over words and actions of others. Definitely keep the lines of communication open. Resist the temptation to resolve the situation by walking away and becoming non-communicative. So as a leader in Cornell Cooperative Extension, as someone who's involving many people in your program, we definitely have to step up as professionals and make sure we're, although we may be upset with the situation that's gone on or the way somebody is treating you based on their difficult personalities, we need to be sure we're handling things. We're showing that we understand. We're trying to relate to the challenge of the person. We're keeping communication lines open, and we're definitely, another strategy is to focus on that initial issue at hand, so not pull in things that have happened in the past, but let's address what we're working on at this point. And others may have ideas to jump in. I've got one more slide, and then you can feel free to add other ways you might diffuse a situation. This is specifically a situation. And then using the centering focus technique. I'm not sure if people are familiar with that or if this has worked for you, but feel free to share an example there. Centering focus, playback, really talk about if someone's sounding in an aggressive way, threatening way, share back with them the exact words that they've used, and so that they can actually hear what's being said. So you really mean this. Technique is called centering, and it keeps the issue in a narrow focus. It's what they're talking about, and it goes back to. So they're hearing what they're saying to you also. And then a few other steps with that is to accept when you are angry, and don't shift the responsibility for your emotions or blame to someone else. You can also be fair to both sides, so you might put each side of the argument on the scale, let everyone carry their share of the blame. Sometimes it is your fault. Sometimes there's a piece of blame that should go to you because of whatever the situation is. Make sure we own up to that. And then also practice being in control of your emotions so that when conflict is in your face, you can say to yourself, this is an opportunity for me to be self-controlled, to be calm, to be relaxed. And then also take the intensity out of your emotions by putting some time and distance between you. And sometimes that is needed. Sometimes it's not something you know you can deal with right there. So you may need to take a little space between you, others, and the incident. Definitely give yourself permission to be angry, but be sure, again, as professionals and people, we should do that with dignity and not slam doors and not throw things. These are just simple steps to think about when you're in the situation of needing to diffuse a situation. So you've got some keys to success. You have some simple steps to diffuse a situation that might get a little difficult. And next we're going to look at some effective responses to the specific difficult personality types that we addressed in the back. Any comments now or questions? We're going to assign you into groups, but anything you've heard so far you want to add to or question? I truly believe you're all the experts. You're out there doing this, so if there's something you want to add to that, feel free. We're going to now split into groups. And I haven't looked at actually who's showed up. According to the registration list, we had team representation in each of these groups. So if you are from an association or department that starts with A through F, so those of you in Extension Administration could be in the Group 1A, whether it's E or A through F. So all the associations that start with A through F would be part of Group 1. Group 2 is going to be our G through N group. They're going to look at the know-it-all and the think they know-it-all. And Group 3 is the O through S, the super agreeable, the indecisive. And we're going to have you look at that, and we're going to look at effective responses based on personality types and characteristics. We're going to do this through a chat, and I'm going to attempt to capture it on whiteboard. And then Group 4 is T through Z, and we'll see, we may have to jump in, but I think we've got some T through Z's on the line, and you're going to look at the unresponsive and pessimist and the whiner. So you may have to go back to what these groups are to think about. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to really think about this as an individual and think about your personality types. Maybe look back on the slides if you have those, the tank, the sniper, the grenade. What kind of things might work to have in your toolbox to respond to these characteristics? So you're going to list effective responses based on personality type characteristics. And Group 1 will only look at the tank, the sniper, the grenade. I'll give you 3 minutes. You can chat if you have a question about that. 3 minutes as an individual to look at that. And then what we'll do is go to Group 1, fill out the responses for the tank, the sniper, the grenade. Then we'll go to Group 2 and look at the know-it-all and the think they know-it-all. And then we'll proceed to Group 3 and 4. But I'll let you all take 3 minutes. And if you have a question, jump into the chat with that. But look at your effective responses based on the personality type characteristics that your group needs to think about. And let me know if I confused you. It's 10:16. We'll gather together at 10:20. And if you finish with your group, you can jump into the others, take a look, and just make some notes on your paper about the other personality types and effective responses. And again, maybe you have experience, so do feel free to share that. I'm going to just set up the whiteboards. I'm not sure if you can write on it. We'll see. whiteboard. We're just going to take one more minute for you to get your thoughts together. And we're going to start with group 1. And I'll ask you to put in the chat the personality type before you list the effective response that might be good for the tank, the sniper, and the grenade. Then we'll move on to group 2 with the know-it-all and the think they know it all. So we'll just take a few more seconds. All right, and I'll open that up for the first group 1. I know you haven't been working directly together unless you're in the same room together, which is wonderful. But if somebody could give me some effective responses for the tank, the sniper, or the grenade, and just put that in the beginning of your chat. And if you can, use the drop-down and click all participants or all attendees, one or the other. I guess they all work. I think we've got some A's out there. And maybe it's somebody who's not in the A category. How might you respond to a tank? It is 10:20. I can start with an example. So just as a reminder, the tank might be pushy and ruthless, loud, forceful, with the quiet intensity and surgical precision of a laser, assumes the end justifies the mean. If you are in the way, you'll be eliminated. How might you deal with a tank? And one example might be to hold your ground. So put that in the chat. Any other suggestions? And I can click that up here. So a different color. Any other ideas? Hold your ground. Liz is saying ground rules. I think that's probably more important, Liz. Thank you for that. That ground, have some ground rules, and then hold your ground. So let's establish those. That's a great suggestion. Any other? Other suggestions might be peace with honor. So really honoring that person as an individual, but also keeping the peace. And really addressing honestly what's happening in the group. And then another respect responses. Yep, and that's I think that also fits in with the peace with honor. And I understand that you might be frustrated or wanting to move ahead, but let's make sure that we're doing that following the ground rules. Very good. And then Sharon is saying consideration of others. So I think that also falls in there. Let's always have that respect, but make sure that we're another idea I think that fits with there is to facilitate with consensus. And really consideration of other, I think, is a key in all of these situations as we're addressing difficult personalities, is always having that respect. Back to my chat. Okay, let's see what we have. We'll move on to the next whiteboard and see if we have a team 2, and the know-it-all and responses to the think they know-it-all, and how might these be different. And then we'll actually take a look at the slides as we go. Well, I can actually, yeah, let's see how we do here. So the know-it-all and the think they know-it-all. Anything I should add on these? This would be counties from G through N. And remember, the know-it-all is the person knows 98% of everything, will tell you what they know for hours at a time, but won't take a moment to listen to you clearly, your clearly inferior ideas. So what might you do as a team leader or as a team member with this person? All ideas are important, may cover an area we are not thinking of. So definitely be open to all those ideas. I think that's a great idea. And especially with the know-it-all, the think they know-it-all, it may lead us somewhere, but we may correct the think they know-it-all when we're thinking of a response, and making sure these people are getting some attention. They're being listened to. That's a good key there too. We're not judging, so maybe a brainstorming sort of thing that we can go back and then clarify some of the facts if that's a situation. Turn taking is another great idea for the person who doesn't want to stop and listen to others. So making sure that you're addressing maybe the more quiet people, or let's go around the room once and get that as a common practice as you're working with the team. It's a great idea. And then let's look at whiteboard 3. And if there's group 3 or anyone else, the super agreeable, and this is the remember talking about the super agreeable as the person who does want to please people, takes on tasks just so they are pleasing people, but doesn't tend to follow through with them. So thinking about a response for that, sometimes they overcommit. How might you work well with the super agreeable, or really make something effective with the super agreeable? So set those specific deadlines, check in periodically with progress, document discussions and agreements, and send reminders. And that's just good management of people and leadership of people, is making sure those communication lines are open. Thanks, Nicole, appreciate that. And only agree with something you know they can do. So know the person, know what they're capable of, know what they've signed up for. If they're not coming through with their agreements, maybe or with what they said they're going to do, really make sure you're giving them, maybe it's a piece of a project that you could follow up and stick with them and help them through, to show them that, you know, things can get done, we can all work together, and they don't have to take everything on. That's really success with working with teams in general also. So these are all great responses as we think about and working with these difficult personalities, but having those responses. Real issue, ask the questions. So again, some of those success tips from before is, why is this person, whether it's the super agreeable, why do they take this on and not come through? Let's have a conversation about that, one of those private adult chats, and we can work through things. How can I help you? Or even with the indecisive, if somebody is not coming forward as a giving answers, doesn't want to take blame for what does come out in the end, that you can have those conversations with this person. Going back to our tips. Let's see if there's any particular responses we may come through for the unresponsive, for that person who's not not really participating. They're sitting back. Maybe they're watching learning, but we don't know that. For some reason, they're not really responding to email, responding in a meeting. Might be a little just not giving feedback at all, or whether it's verbal or nonverbal. You're not even sure if they're listening. Have everyone provide a response. Yep, that's again, I think that's asking for input and taking turns, and let's see what everybody's thinking at this point. It doesn't have to be a commitment, but yes or no, making sure you're framing the question. As directly in a meeting too does tend to get more responses. A little hard not to respond when you're in a team meeting, but again, sometimes you have to go back and ask the question, why are they not responding? Try to engage them more, making them feel more important. Try the team building exercises. So it could just be a matter of, that's great, Charmaine, a matter of insecurity, and all these people really know what they're doing. I'm new to the situation. I don't know if I can trust everyone in the room. So really, team building is another good response for that unresponsive. Anything for the pessimist or the whiner? So they're really, as we think about them, they're not seeing a bright future for anything, either one of them. They're doleful, discouraging, and they tend to make other people feel like there's not a future. The whiner likes to wallow in their woe. Love that. Whine, 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 drag others down with the weight of their generalizations, and they're always saying that everything's wrong, nothing's the way it used to be, because it used to be so wonderful. So some of these responses is allow folks to be prepared by informing them ahead of time what they'll be required to report on. And that's good meeting management also, is here's the agenda, here's some of the decisions that are coming. And some people do just need, as far as their personalities, more time to think through things internally, and they don't just come out talking with an answer. Another great response. And then focus on the team. Together everyone achieves more, and really hype that up, that we want responses from everyone. We need diverse opinions. If you want to challenge something, please do that. Step up and do that. Think they know it all, education, restate, refocus. Absolutely. So we've got to make sure we're sharing, if we know that that's not the correct fact, we can talk about some things, we can make sure that what really is the fact, and making sure that's straight as we go through. So good. We've got some more coming. Good. Pessimist whiner, put them in charge of the projects that they may be critics of. And I think that's a wonderful strategy that we often use in Extension. They've got some great ideas. But as soon as we can show that there's a bright future, this can be done the right way, let's see what if they can be part of all that, and the critique is probably going to be reduced. So I think these are all really wonderful strategies. I'm going to click back just to the presentation, and I actually left some slides out of your presentation, and I will send the complete one, but the important thing is that we're creating that toolbox of responses, and any of you who have worked in Extension or worked with teams or individuals for any amount of time, you've got a lot of these responses right on the tip of your tongue and the tip of your mind. Here's what I do when there's somebody who's a little too pushy with a group. Here's someone who, how should we address that person who's kind of sneaking around, maybe spreading gossip. In this presentation, we do share some of the responses. So with the tank, you hold your ground. You're going to interrupt the attack. You're going to learn to sense where that person's going, especially once you know them a little bit. Sometimes you need to backtrack and say, whoa, that's, you're moving ahead too fast for the group, and we need to go and look at a few more facts. I'm sensing that some in the team need to consider things a little bit differently, and definitely aim for that bottom line of fire. And that tank can be very, very useful to get things done. Let's make sure the goal is clear, and definitely work with that person with high respect. They're going to get things done. We appreciate you get things done, and let's be sure we're always looking at that goal there. And the grenade is, again, get their attention. You're going to aim for their heart. You're going to reduce the intensity of that person's, the type that might blow up, and you can see things building, is really try to help people kind of calm down, come back to the level. If they do tend to blow up, is make sure that there is some time off for bad behavior. That's appropriate, and it could just be going back to what's the reason for this? Why did this person get all upset about that small little issue that we covered in the team meeting? But having that conversation and then saying, I think we just need to step away from the project or the team, depending on what it is, but time off for bad behavior, and then again, knowing what sets them off and trying to, sometimes you can't, but if you can, avoid setting them off. Know the relationships that are out there. And then the sniper might be resentful, covert operator, gets even by identifying weaknesses, using them against you, may use sabotage, gossip. Response might be to stop, to look, again, to backtrack. Let's think about what what our goal was. Use the searchlight question. So use questions where you can gain some information, really see what this person is thinking in the team meeting or when you're having a conversation, rather than maybe what they're going to go out and talk about behind your back, or get them to kind of bring out what their thoughts are. You might use the tank strategy also if you have to, as far as holding your ground and interrupting an attack, and go on a grievance patrol. Some of these are a little bit negative, I think, as we think about responses, but let's concisely think about what kind of things can we do to address and to make a team more effective, address individual behaviors, and keep things moving forward and on track. So the grenade is the explosive, unpredictable, and we just talked about that as far as giving them time off for bad behavior, avoid setting them off. So feel free, I'm watching the chat if you want to put in any comments, but I'll move ahead with the toolbox for the know-it-all and think they know it all. We spent a little time on this and did get some comments. Be prepared and know your stuff. So you've got this person who's really intelligent and reads up, might also be looking very carefully in the information that you're sending out. Backtrack respectfully if you need to. Again, some people may not know you've moved ahead. You're talking about something. Backtrack if you need to. Watch the rest of the team and see if they're following along or not. And definitely if that know-it-all has some doubts or has some needs and desires, you want to blend in with their doubts and their desires, and let's make sure it's grounded for everyone else. Prevent your views indirectly. So you might think about maybe one thing I heard, one thing I thought about, might be something that's not necessarily what the know-it-all is thinking, but you may talk a little bit about why that's the case. And then also turn them into mentors, and this is really great with the know-it-all who's very familiar. It might be with the system, it might be with the topic, it might be a subject matter, part of your 4-H Youth Development HORSE program, and if they're working well with each other and they know how to work well with people and have a lot of facts, we definitely can turn them into the mentor, and they want to be acknowledged for what they know. That's why we think of them as know-it-alls. And then the think they know it all, remember they don't necessarily know much about it, but they're going to talk about it, and they might mislead things, so you want to give them a little attention, clarify for specific items. You're going to tell it like it is. If you know that there's a fact that was shared that wasn't, you want to make sure that's clear. Definitely give them a break and know that they're good-hearted, well-intentioned, but maybe they need to look back in the information because we shared that on page 3, and break the cycle. So help this person get a little more informed. And then the last category is the super agreeable, and you want to make it safe to be honest. Let's think about all that we all have to do. We want to come through, ensure the commitment, strengthen the relationship. And then I think you hit that one pretty good. And then the indecisive is to, again, let's establish those ground rules. Let's make a comfort zone. These came up in the chat, and we're right on. Use decision-making process. Let's go around the table, give everybody a chance. Let's ask for an answer in the meeting, and prepare people ahead of time so they do know what decisions we'll be making, and definitely get to know, build the team, strengthen the relationship. Again, with both of these, the super agreeable and the indecisive. And again, I think you hit these very well in the chat. Sorry, one last one is the unresponsive, the pessimist, and the whiner. And again, we're not getting feedback. We want to ask open questions. We want to go around the table, let's give it a chance. Sometimes you want to help lighten things up for the unresponsive. Take guesses, definitely show the future, and with all the three in this category is making sure that there is a positive, there's good things that are going on, sharing how strong the organization is, how strong the 4-H horse program is, and why it's making a difference, and make sure people are seeing those good things. But also with the pessimist, you may go with the flow, use them as a resource. There's reasons that they may be coming in with a negative attitude. Leave the door open so they can kind of scrutinize if they can, but we still want them to be involved. Go for the polarity response. If you're not sure how people are going to respond, or maybe something that might come up in the meeting that you're not expecting, they could be a resource for you. What do you think about this idea? And getting that idea. And know that they are coming at you with a good intent. They just aren't looking at things very positively. And then the last one is the whiner, and listen to those main points. Sometimes there's really real good things happening, even though they might be whining constantly. You don't want them to drag others down, but there's some important things in there. What's crucial to the team, what's crucial to the project, and pull those out. Interrupt and get specific. So if they're just saying, oh, this just isn't the way it used to be, professional development is not the same, sometimes you could stop and kind of let's look at that. What are you saying? Do we not have the money for it? Do we not have the time? Are you not getting the topics you need? And really get specifics from people. Shift the focus to solutions. So if we're hearing a lot of complaining, all right, what can we do about it? And I find when I find myself complaining, I want to come up with a solution. So let's help people think that way. Don't let whining infiltrate your teams, and set the example. Show them the future. Draw the line. We're going to hear your points. I'd like to, hear what your concerns are, but then we're going to move on, and what are we going to do as a team to move forward with that. So there are some great toolboxes of responses here with the different personalities. Any comments or things that have worked well with you? Some of these, maybe you thought of some personality types that we went through, or some individuals who might be exhibiting these difficult personalities, and some successes or maybe even challenges you continue to have. I'll invite you to put that into the chat. Okay, and then we're just going to do some wrap-up now, just the last few minutes. We're going to get ready to get things done. We are ready to get things done. Once we've been through this presentation, we've got some projects. I'm going to send you the handout with these responses so you have those. I also have another handout specifically on understanding diverse personalities. Talks a little bit about what you can do as far as adjusting your attitude and not to fight back, not to shut down if you've got somebody who's being a tank, releasing your own anger if the grenade blows up about things, is not getting mad, but making sure you're really focusing on addressing the situation. So you have these tools, and I'll send you these handouts. I'll post these handouts and a link to go to the staff site to get them. But you know about personality types now, and there's many more out there, and you might maybe create some or combinations and understand this person's a blend of this, and this might work well to bring this to the staff meeting, and here's how we're going to handle that, or to the next dog advisory committee meeting, that person who keeps saying that the program's just not the same. Let's address some of these issues that are going on and stop the negativity of a certain team. So you're leaders in many different situations, and any interaction you have, you've got abilities to, let's think about who I'm working with, and oh, this worked before, or this is in my toolbox, and I know I can give this a try. It's not always going to work. Sometimes there's just not things that will work, but for the majority, there'll be those tools for you. And understanding the keys to success that we talked about, and getting the best out of each team and each individual, and also knowing how to diffuse that situation. And I heard those comments coming out when we were talking about how do you address someone specific, that there's definitely ways you can, let's talk about this, let's have the adult conversation, let's step over here in private and have this conversation and see if we can really understand each other and understand why. some of these difficult personalities may be coming out. So our toolbox of responses is very loaded with ways to get along and get things done with our diverse co-workers, with our employees, with our volunteers, and with our teams. Any other thoughts, any other comments as we're moving along? What I'd like everyone here to do, just to kind of carry on this lesson, is to practice what you've learned, look at the toolkits, and think about maybe 2 people that bring a diverse personality to your work or maybe to your personal life. Sometimes this all ties in with children too, and maybe we should have talked a little bit more about that, or even dealing with parents or parents of your significant other, or just family members in general. So think about 2 people that might be exhibiting some of these personalities, either you've heard about or you heard about today for the first time, and target them and practice some responses, and let me know how that goes. Also invite you to share this presentation with colleagues or others. I can share the handout, I can share the notes with you. Just get in touch with me and we can do that. You'll have the handout so you can share that and bring it to your staff meeting, whatever you like to do, or a certain team who might be having lots of difficult personalities involved. And then I'd encourage you to, there's 2 upcoming webinars if your schedule allows it. I encourage everyone to be part of Jim Sheridan's presentation, and we haven't had a description or a presenter listed for this until last week. We were able to work with the Office of Organizational Effectiveness here on campus, and Jim Sheridan is very excited to be working with us. He's a senior management consultant, and he's done a presentation that I heard was just excellent. Melissa Reif has assured us he can do this in 90 minutes, and it's called Crucial Conversations. You may have seen the book, Crucial Conversations, Tools for Talking When Stakes Are High. And I've actually gone through this course also, and it's just, when you get to that point, there's very important conversations to be had, high stakes, maybe some conflict or tension, and this actually takes you through steps on how you can be sure you have a safe conversation when you've got some of these difficult personalities. How do you make it effective so it's not causing bad feelings? I think some of us are hesitant to confront people, and this is ways we can talk about it and really making it safe and making it, here's what the end goal is, that we can work together in the future. So if you can tap onto that, we are actually paying some money for Jim to be involved, and it's his first experience with webinars, so we're going to help guide him through that. We want to show that there's lots of interest here with Cornell Cooperative Extension, because there's many resources through that organization that we'd like to bring more to you and your colleagues. And then Sarah Dayton's presentation, and that's March 19th at 9:30. You can still register for that if you're not already, but we do have a pretty good list there. Sarah's presentation on workplace bullying and impact on teams is, again, right along the line here. We're trying to build those tools for you and really increase the success with our teams. We're working all different teams, especially with our regional efforts, and we invite you to be part of that. And again, there's a nice list of those registered, and I know some of you are on the list also. And take a look at the resources that we've posted. So we'll have those on our upcoming professional development page. You can take a look. I'll make sure you have the presentation slides in an email and also a link to get to them. And there's also references on the next slide. And they're actually references for the 2 different presentations, because we pulled a little bit from each, from the Building Collaborative teams and also the Working with Diverse Personalities. So lots of content, I think, built into this 90 minutes, and I really appreciate all of you being part of things and chatting and interacting, sharing your expertise, because it's not all about what I'm offering to you, but definitely us learning from each other. So thanks for your participation. We're going to end a little bit early. I wish I could have given you these 15 minutes when it was 5:30 in the morning and you were waking up at 6:30. But do feel free, if there's any questions or comments, do feel free to pop those into the box. I'll stay on for a little bit. And again, I'll be sending you some resources. So have a good Monday, everybody.